Washington football. Woo! Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Burgundy Zone. I am your host, Kyle, and I am joined by my co-host, Mr. Hall, and we are joined by special guest on his way back from Philly as we speak, Mr. Michael Phillips of the Richmond Times Dispatch. How are you doing on this Misery Wednesday, Mr. Phillips?
Well, you know what? I don't know. We got to the fourth quarter, and I wrote this. It's hard to be mad at anybody. Garrett Gilbert was out there, and I thought they had a decent game plan. I thought they all tried hard and played hard, but it just wasn't in the cards. And if you're gonna be mad at anybody, I guess be mad at COVID. But it just wasn't gonna happen.
Yeah, and I've seen some people kind of blame Scott Turner and essentially saying that he didn't have a lot of plays in there and everything. But to his credit, with Garrett Gilbert coming off of only 2 weeks being on this football team, your playbook is not that much. He doesn't know all of your plays, so it's hard to call plays that he doesn't know, right?
Not only that, I mean, they had a couple winners in there. I'm thinking the one where Sadiq Charles had the blindside block. I mean, that was a great play. The 3rd and 1 where they break tendency, throw to Bates. Bates isn't a receiver. They don't respect him like a receiver. And then 2, 3rd and 1, they always run the ball. I thought that was just a brilliant use of time and space there. When you're 2nd and 10, it doesn't matter if you're freaking Bill Belichick. You're not going to dial up a winning play. That's what happened. They on 1st and 10, they couldn't convert on the ground and they couldn't convert in the air. So that put them in bad situations later. As the game went on, they very clearly did not respect Garrett Gilbert deep, which allowed him to stack even more up against the run, and justifiably so. I mean, you would say Gilbert's biggest play was the pass to Terry McLaurin, but a better quarterback makes that a touchdown. I mean, McLaurin was in stride, had a step on the guy, should have been a touchdown. He had a really nice pass to Humphreys in the end zone that Humphreys didn't catch.
Yeah, that hit him in the chest, right?
Yeah, I think that's one he'll want back for sure. I don't know. It's hard to be mad at Gilbert or Scott Turner. I thought they made the most of what they had available.
Yeah, I agree. I actually made a joke that Humphreys wasn't used to that much velocity on the ball. That's why I hit him in the chest. Kind of came up on him too fast.
It's messed up.
But this defense on the latter half of the year has been pretty stout. Well, pretty much the whole year actually has been pretty stout against the run. And then Philly comes out and they look like the Baltimore Ravens of a couple years ago, just running up and down the field left and right. How surprised were you that this rush defense kind of just let the levy loose pretty much last night?
Yeah, man, that's such a demoralizing way to lose too, 5 yards at a time. It's a tough getting ground down like that. That's a tough way to lose a football game. And it was clear. And we talked to Montez Sweat, after the game. They say, hey, look, yes, I've been working out, but you can't simulate that. You can't simulate being blocked in motion by 200-300-pound dudes who can all run 4.7 40s. That. It's tough to do that without having other people around, and even in practice, they get the practice squad guys to help them do that. I don't know. I think the COVID was a very real factor here in that they didn't have the practice time. They didn't have the energy level. James Smith-Williams wasn't out there at all. I'm prepared to spot them this one in a way I wasn't earlier in the season. I was very hard on them earlier in the season. I think justifiably so. You should expect greatness from that unit every week. They've invested it to that degree and played to that degree and are capable of playing to that degree. But it's tough on after the COVID pause to really fillet them for that. Now, they've got the week here. They've got a few days. I would expect a better effort against Dallas for sure.
Yeah, I would agree. And I just wanted to say the Burgundy Zone is part of the Frederick Podcast Network. You can find out more at www.listenfrederick.com. Now, my next question to you, a lot happened today. 33 players got placed on the COVID list in the National Football League wide. One of those players being Cole Holcomb. And now it looks like there's only 2 or 3 possible linebackers set for Dallas on Sunday. How big of a deal is this for Washington, Michael?
Yeah, that's a bad loss because you talk about replaceable and irreplaceable guys. Like even Taylor Heineke goes down, you say that's okay, he's replaceable. Kyle Allen's fine, and so on. There's lots of guys like that. Sam Cosmi goes down fine. Cornelius Lucas can replace him, at a proficient level. He's a guy who doesn't have a proficient replacement behind him, and certainly not, since they lost John Bostic. So if you're ready to throw in the towel, and I don't, Ron's not ready to throw in the towel, obviously. Right? Ron will fight it to the bitter end. I'm fine with, if you want to convince me they can win in Dallas this weekend, I'll buy that, and that obviously saves the season. You just need to beat the Eagles and Giants in back-to-back weeks. But if you're ready to throw in the towel, it's not the worst thing in the world to make Jamin Davis do the job for 3 weeks here at the end of the year and give him those reps going into next year. Like, it probably won't go well. Like, if we're just being totally honest here, it's just probably not going to be his thing at first, but I think it's a maybe take your lumps to get better for the future situation. And I'm not saying they can't beat Dallas. It's plausible they beat Dallas, but I think the odds are at this point they're probably done. And so, hey, that's the kind of thing you want to be doing if you have a team that's not going to make the playoffs, is getting guys like Jamin Davis runs. So I don't know, maybe I'm stretching to the bright side here of things, but I'll be very curious how he plays without that safety blanket, Cole Holcomb, being back there.
Yeah, definitely. I agree with that 100%. And I was I was scrolling through Twitter earlier, and I was looking at I think it was Pete Haley's Twitter, and it had something about a reporter asked Coach about what happened with the defense, and he kind of alluded to again how guys were trying to, I guess, do too much and kind of out of position, try to make a play that wasn't really there. And I noticed in the comments that a lot of people were kind of attributing to that to like, hey, well, when Montez Sweat wasn't out there, none of this stuff was going on. Do you think that has any ground, or you think that's just how the game flow went last night?
Yeah, I think Montez got a bad rap. I think he got lumped in with Chase Young there at the start of the year because they kind of were doing all their preseason talking together. But I thought even as Chase was struggling, Montez was doing good to holding his own. Like, certainly not first round caliber, but I thought he was playing well until the injury. So I thought he maybe took a few unfair lumps. But it's fair to note that the pressing returned. I think there's so many other factors. We'll give it a couple weeks, see what happens. I'm willing to give Montez the benefit of the doubt for now, but I will say this. I think it's very clear what I've learned through this absence is Jonathan Allen is the leader of the defense and needs to be the leader of the defense. I know the marketing department won't love to hear that because Chase Young is, he's everywhere, man. He's in Under Armour commercials, and you want to put him on the season ticket brochure and all that good stuff. But man, Jonathan Allen is the heart and soul of this defense. He really is. He's dominant. He has the right attitude. He has the right work ethic. I hope they make that small tweak this offseason. It won't be easy for Chase Young to take, but the games where Jonathan Allen has led the defense, they've played with a lot more heart and intensity. I don't think Montez Sweat wants that job, so I don't know. I'm kind of leaving him out of this discussion. I know that he's maybe good enough to be that on some teams, but I don't think that's something he would necessarily be insulted by, if you were to say that Jonathan Allen's the captain and the leader in the way Chase would be.
Yeah, and somebody who has gotten beaten up early in the season was Landon Collins. He came and had a great game last night, had the pick early on that should have been a pick six, and he also had the fumble recovery. He's been doing great the past couple weeks. He went down for an injury along with William Jackson III, who was the highest graded player for Washington with like an 83-point grade from Pro Football Focus. What have you heard? What's the latest on William Jackson III and Landon Collins? I know the coach said he was optimistic about their chances for playing Sunday. What have you heard?
Yeah, and we're still waiting on the MRI, and I think tomorrow's practice report will tell us something. I don't know. After the Logan Thomas thing, I'm tired of going down optimistic roads, where you learn and certainly in the moment, he's grabbing the Achilles, and you always hate to see the grab of the Achilles. Like, you start fearing the worst on that. So I don't know. I guess with Landon, I mean, I know this sounds crazy, but I hope if it's serious, I hope he's back up and running in time for practices next year, because I really think he's made a compelling case to stay on this football team in the next year, which none of us saw coming a few weeks ago.
Yeah, that's actually funny you mentioned that, because that was going to be kind of my piggyback question off of that. Like, do you see a role for him on this team next year, or do you think that they'll move on and try to find, I guess, get younger and faster, a true deep safety?
Yeah, and a lot of this is up to Landon too, because he has been very clear that he views himself as a true safety and not a hybrid or not a linebacker or any of that. So I could see an amicable parting where Washington says, we would love to have you back in this role. We like you a lot, and he says, "I love you guys, but I'm a true safety, and I'm gonna go figure this out somewhere." Kind of that no fault divorce thing. I could see that happening. On the other hand, he makes a lot of money here, and I don't think that money's out there for him in free agency. Like I think he'd get paid, and I think somebody would sign him, but he's gonna make more here than he'd make somewhere else. So I don't know. That seems like a compelling reason to me to maybe suck up your pride a little bit. And, that this team loves what he brings. They really do, his leadership and all that stuff. So I don't know. It wouldn't surprise me either way at this juncture if they make it work or don't make it work.
Yeah, and one player, Antonio Gibson, last night, 15 carries, 26 yards, only averaged 1.7 yards per carry. Coach talked about that turf toe kind of flared back up. Do you think that there's a possibility AG could be shut down for the season?
Man, doesn't this go right back to the Jamin Davis observation? Like, are you ready to throw in the towel yet? And I think the answer is no. I think the answer is you want to go down to Dallas and throw your best at it and see what happens. Obviously, if you lose in Dallas, it's over. I think we all agree on that. Like, it's just, that's too many divisional conference losses, too many teams in the picture. I think even if you beat the Eagles and the Giants, you're still not making the playoffs at that juncture. So I think the towel is in if they lose in Dallas. Once the towel is thrown in, we better not see that dude on the field for the rest of the year. He's far too important. I'll go one more on you. I don't want to see Terry McLaurin on the field the rest of the year either. That dude is playing through, getting beat up this year. And all respect to him. He's so good. But if they lose in Dallas this week, I certainly hope that's the end of his year too.
Yeah, and since we're on the potential what happens after Sunday, throwing in the towel type of thing, the offseason obviously is going to be another wild one coming through Washington this year with the quarterback position. Do you see them, if you had to make a guess as of right now, which obviously I know it's still early, would you think they're going to go into the season with Taylor and whoever else, rookie, whoever else behind him? Do you think they're going to go in free agency and get a guy, or do you think they just bring the quarterback room they have now back?
They will add a quarterback. It would be absolutely insane to run this back for another year, especially in what'll be a key year for Ron Rivera, year 3, where he's turned over pretty much the whole roster and now had a couple of years with a lot of these guys. I think if it's a rookie, you would, no matter who it is, you would probably want to let Taylor start and let him grow for the first few weeks. I don't know that there's a sure thing day one guy, even Pickett, who I think is the consensus top guy on the board at this point. I don't know that he's a guy that you just plug in and roll with on day one. But if it's a veteran guy, if they, trade for somebody, find somebody in free agency, that guy would be coming in to start, high end Rodgers, low end Mariota or Trubisky, and we all get mad. Middle range Carr, Deshaun Watson. A lot of things could happen between now and then with Deshaun Watson. Whatever it is, if you're bringing in a veteran guy, you don't bring in a veteran guy to sit and learn for a little while. So that'd be your guy. We got to get a new name first, though. I mean, this is going to be a wacky. This is going to be a wacky off season. Like, we got a new name. Free agency is going to be big. The draft is going to be big. And I know that these guys are the off season champs. I don't want to deny them their title, obviously, but this is going to be a good one even by Washington standards.
Yeah, the new name's going to be Washington Redskin. Just no S on the end of it, apparently. My next question to you, Michael. One player, he was kind of hard on himself today on Twitter, and he's a fan favorite. He came back because of all the COVID list and everyone that was off, was Jeremy Reeves. He led the defense in tackles with 12 on the day. How did you think he did in his comeback?
Yeah, man, you're right. He was unnecessarily hard on himself. Hey, that dude's got a lot of heart. I'll make room for that player on my team any day. Yeah. I don't know that you can win Super Bowls with guys like that. Like, at a certain point, the talent's got to take over. But I go to war with the Jeremy Reeves any day. He's, he represents the best of Ron Rivera guys. I certainly hope that when he gets back and looks at the tape, he's proud of what he did. There were some plays he left out there. My goodness, there were some plays that the more experienced guys left out there, and that is what happened last night. Was there were plays left out there, but I liked what I saw from him. That's a guy I want to keep in the room. He's clearly got a lot of heart and hustle and all that good stuff.
Yeah, I thought it was really funny with his Dallas Goedert's celebration after he caught the pass on Jeremy Reeves, because Dallas would not have caught that ball if Jeremy Reeves doesn't initially catch it. So I don't know what you're talking about right here, being too small, because he caught the ball and you didn't. Go home.
Yeah, jumping back to Antonio Gibson a little bit, and the Twitter universe, which is a crazy universe in its own. A lot of people have obviously been down on Antonio Gibson this year because of the fumbles. The yards per carry hasn't really been there. Everyone kind of expected him to be that kind of Christian McCaffrey type role for this offense this year, and it just hasn't really emerged due to the injuries, I think. Do you think they need to add another running back to this room, or are you confident going forward into next year with Antonio Gibson as the official RB1?
Well, I love Antonio Gibson as an RB1. I think he's playing through some stuff here. I don't know that Jarrett Patterson has been everything they hoped he would be. They seem to be really reluctant to use him, even in situations where it seems pretty logical to use him. So I don't know if that's a rookie thing or a growth thing, or if they're looking back. But I mean, look around the NFL. You talk about him being a Christian McCaffrey guy. Well, Christian McCaffrey gets hurt every year, and Derrick Henry gets hurt every year. And like, I would not wish being an NFL running back on anybody. It's a brutal gig and a brutal life. So it's hard to hold that against him. I think that just comes with the territory, but I've seen enough to say when he's good, he's the man. That's my RB1. No need to debate further when he's rolling.
Yeah, and I hate to waste a question on this, Michael, but to wrap this up, I have only two for you. But the Washington football team flew in their benches.
We got benches.
And everyone was talking about it, how it was a copycat of what Dallas did. I know that you had posted the next gen stats saying that visiting teams that brought in their benches outscored their opponents 37-20. So what do you think? Do you think that there was some nefarious reason for doing that, or do you think that they looked at it and was like, well, if we can do that, we should?
I don't know is the short answer. Because I wasn't able to talk to anybody before the game, because we discovered it a couple hours before the game. We don't talk to the guys before the game. And then after the game, of course, nobody wants to touch that. That's a hot potato. Everybody I talked to today is like, it wasn't my idea. I didn't do it. All the way on up to the top. You're like, yeah, sure. You didn't know about that. Okay, buddy. So who's to say it was. So if you want to have benches for comfort, bring in benches for comfort. You don't need to slap a sticker on them. That's fine. Once you knew Garrett Gilbert was going to be the quarterback, just smack that big red abort button on the benches there. Like, don't put the sticker on the bench if Garrett Gilbert's your quarterback. Like, all respect to Ron and him, and you're firing the team up to win. But, they weren't going to win that game, and it's such a bad look when you do that and don't win.
Yeah, I would agree with you. Now, my last question I had, oh, my goodness. Where was it? Oh, my goodness, Michael. Of course, I can't think of it as soon as – J.D. McKissick, I wanted to ask you, because during the week, with all the COVID talk, he got placed on IR, and I don't think there's any confusion. The offense has fallen off ever since J.D. has gotten hurt. So what's the latest you've heard on J.D.? I mean, obviously, this is very serious for a concussion if he's out for 2 weeks and then they put him on IR.
Yeah, man. And that injury kind of got obscured too by the crazy finish against Seattle. That was in that wild sequence down the stretch where, even after he came off, everything was still went wacky in the onside kick and all that. I just look back on that and like his neck planted pretty firmly against the ground. I don't think we'll see him again this season, even if there is a postseason. Right. And hopefully, he's back ready to go next year, because I completely agree with that assessment. He's a big part of this team.
He really is. Best pass blocking back as well. Thank you so much for joining us, Mr. Phillips. As always, it's been a pleasure. Hopefully, safe travels. I hope you have a happy holiday, by the way. Christmas coming up this weekend, so hopefully you get to go back, be with the family, and have a good, safe time, and don't worry about football.
I will do that. Home is Wichita, Kansas for me. It's conveniently on the way to Dallas. So I'll stop in, and then Christmas at Jerry World beats Thanksgiving at Jerry World. So, I don't know. Crazier things have happened in life than these guys winning a game. I don't think they will, but I'll watch. It'll be fun.
Yes, sir. Yeah. All right. Thank you so much, Michael. You have a great time, sir.
Catch you guys later.
All right, Michael. Oh man, dude, this is crazy with all this COVID talk, man. Cole Holcomb now being added to list, and Jamin Davis has had issues with his shoulder apparently today. He did not practice as well, so that on top of it is the worst thing. But before we get into our fan questions and the game beers, I just wanted to say I thought that Kendall Fuller and Cam Curl being out was probably the biggest reason why this defense was not being able to stop them and get off the field on third down. Just get off the field, period. To be perfectly honest, I don't know how you feel about that.
Yeah, yeah, I would say it was probably a little bit of a contributing factor. I definitely think the front seven was majority of the reason because they were just getting gashed by the run game with Miles Sanders and Jalen Hurts pretty much. But on the flip side of things, like you said, Jalen Hurts hasn't really looked like a prolific passer for the whole season that I can remember. And last night was probably his best passing game of the season. And obviously, it's with no Neville that, like you said, Cam Curl and William Fuller are out. So Kendall Fuller, I said William. Kendall Fuller are out, and William Jackson gets injured as well during that game. So definitely, hopefully, we get these guys back. Well, can Kendall Fuller come back? I know it was 10 days.
I believe he is vaccinated. Yes. So he just.
No, I don't think he is vaccinated. I don't think Fuller is vaccinated. That's why he's been out for so long.
Oh, I thought they were contemplating. He just needed 2 negative tests to get back on.
I think that was Cam Curl. So yeah, hopefully we can at least get Cam Curl back. Hopefully William Jackson and Landon Collins are back this week because obviously short turnaround, and you got the 3-headed monsters coming in on offensive wide receivers in Dallas.
Yeah, look, man. To be honest, I thought that was the second half of that game. I thought that was the worst performance that I've seen out of this defense all season long. And one thing for me is that Cam Curl, he really does mask a lot of the deficiencies of the defense, especially the linebacking core, because my nickname for him is the plug, and the reason for that, he plugs gaps. He comes up, he makes tackles, and numerous times this season, I've seen Cam Curl come up, make a tackle where if he's not there, that's a 15 to 20 yard run. And I thought that was evident last night of him not coming in and being able to clean up. I thought that was huge. And then with the screens that Philadelphia was running, I think Kendall Fuller is so good at blowing up screens and sacrificing his body, just getting in the way. And I felt like that was missing last night as well. But now we are joined by our second guest, the ultra-talented Mr. Todd Pascal of the Tae and Todd's Podcast. How are you doing today, Todd?
I'm doing good. I'm glad we finally were able to get together here, Kyle and Hall.
Yes, yeah, dude, it's been too long, Mr. Todd, and
yeah,
given that the sky is basically falling, if you were to check Washington Twitter, it's a good time to be able to talk to one of the best. And one of the things I wanted to discuss with you, Todd, because I know on Twitter you put it out earlier because you did a lot of investigating. And what does Washington need to do to make the playoffs at this point, right? Because it's a long list, and they need a lot to happen.
Yeah, so I tweeted that out last night. I tweeted both. I said draft, and it's funny. They're in the 10th draft spot right now. They're in the 10th seed. And they can be the 7th seed in the draft, and they can have the 7th pick in the draft. So right now, basically, you can get in without winning out. But let's just say you win out, so you finish that puts you at 9-8.
Yep.
So you beat the Eagles, you beat the Cowboys, you beat the Giants. You would need the Vikings and the Saints to lose one of their next 3 at least, and then you've beaten the Eagles, so that's their one loss that they need, and then you'd have the better conference record there. And really, if you can just get to 9-8 and you force those other teams to get to 8 losses, that's what it would be. Then you have that conference tiebreaker. So really what they need is just ideally to win their last 3 and need the Saints and the Vikings to lose 1, more or less. Also the 49ers kind of in there too. But So, it's like you need help now. It's not a crazy long shot, but you do need to win. I would say you really need to win your last 3.
Yeah, and I love Jonathan Allen's explanation last night, basically saying nobody cares about your problems. There's no excuses. We didn't get the job done. Specifically, they gave up 238 yards on the ground. That was putrid, the holes that we were seeing being developed. But that being said, I know Washington lost 27-17 last night, and it's brutal because they're falling to 6-8. But if we could just give a silver lining to all this, just help us feel a little bit better on this Wednesday because it is Dallas week. Let's give out game beers. Let's just do one each. I don't think everyone deserves it, obviously, because of the loss. I don't want to, kind of hype up a loss, obviously. But
right.
Who's somebody you think deserves a game beer? Who deserves to kick their feet up and say, look, man, you did well last night. Enjoy.
That's a good question. Without going with someone like easy, like Terry McLaurin, I think I'll go with Jeremy Reeves. People have obviously been clamoring for him for a while. I know he got, quote unquote, mossed, although he was in the right position, right? And Goddard's a good player, but he was flying around. What the main thing that stood out to me was not only was he making those tackles and not missing them, but he was making those tackles physically. He was flying down, right? And so I thought that he was like, even on the where he got mossed, the fact that he was even in position for that was impressive, because he was carrying the post route, but then he saw the wheel and then he got back there. It was just a good play by Goddard. So I'm gonna go with Jeremy Reeves coming in as the fifth safety, and really being in his spot more than anything, being in the place where he needed to be.
Mine, game beer going for me, Ricky Seals-Jones. That dude continues to ball every time he's available. It seems like he's catching one-handed balls. He was a positive aspect to this, and obviously you give one to John Bates as well. He's done a very good job, obviously getting that one reception, I think, for like 25 yards. So for me, it's Ricky Seals-Jones, man. Ricky! I love me some Ricky, man. He deserves a game beer. What about you, Hall?
I'm probably going to take the easy one out of you guys' picks, but I'm going to go with Landon Collins just because I just feel like he's reinvented his game over this past, like, since the bye week pretty much. I think he had 6 tackles total, 4 solo tackles.
Yep.
Obviously, he had the picks, well, should have been a pick 6, but he had the interception. He had the fumble recovery as well. Got us down in the scoring position on that. Should have been a touchdown. Humphreys dropped that bullet pass to his chest.
Yeah, he did.
But, I'll definitely go with Landon Collins. He deserves to kick his feet up, crack a cold one.
Yeah, and obviously we can't leave here without giving – I thought somebody was going to do a game beer to Terry McLaurin. Obviously, 2 weeks last week, that guy goes up for a ball, bangs his head, gets concussion. Everyone's kind of concerned about him playing in this game, and he literally, no regard at all for his safety, he still goes up and jumping for balls. I just absolutely love Terry McLaurin, man. He is a freaking gamer. I love him so much.
Yeah.
That dude deserves a keg at this point, honestly.
Dude,
seriously.
He seriously does.
He deserves the sponsorship.
Yeah, he does. Now, a question that we have from our fans, and this one being from the Colonel himself. He only has one, and he wanted to preface it with this. So I want to go to Todd with you first. He says, my only question is going to piss you guys off, guaranteed. I have never and will never feel this way. But what is the argument against time to tank, especially with some of our biggest playmakers coming up on their payday?
Man, that's a good question.
It is.
So I'll just answer the question without doing like a dialogue beforehand. But the best argument for me is this team has not made the playoffs in back-to-back years since I think maybe none of us were born yet. I think that's a very real possibility. So if they don't make the playoffs this year, like, you can point to a number of reasons that had little to do with, the coaching staff, and that's so much to do with the state of the world right now, and say you can be proud of what they did and see where they need to improve. But if they made the playoffs, then that just makes it so much easier to sell this to the fans, for Ron Rivera to sell it to the players, the staff, for everyone around the organization to believe. Even if you make the playoffs at 9-8, it's just so easy for everyone to believe. And then you've won more than you did last year, so you felt like in that area you took a step forward, and so you feel like you're taking steps forward and doing things you haven't done in like 30 years. And so while you don't get the draft position, while you still could trade up, you feel like as an organization you're still trending the right direction. And while if you miss the playoffs, that doesn't mean you aren't. If you make it, it seems like a clear indication that you are. I would love for Ron Rivera to be able to say he got this team to the playoffs 2 years in a row in his first 2 years here, and I think that to me is the main argument against tanking.
Yeah, and for me, I want them to make the playoffs specifically, so there is no caveat, there is no excuse to what happened last year with the whole COVID thing and them benching Jalen Hurts and all that. I want that out the window, and I also believed, I said this before the season, this team, if they want to take a step forward, this season would be considered a failure if they don't make the playoffs. I don't care about the circumstances permitting. I really do not. Make the playoffs or don't, because you're trying to build on something. And that's how I feel about it. And I do not like the whole tanking aspect, because when you go in with that mindset, naturally, guys are going to be vulnerable. And that's when injuries can happen that are very, very bad, in my personal opinion. And if there's any way to go about this, and Coach talked about it, you have to control your division. You can't just go in and tank right now going against the division. That's completely contradicting what he's been saying and what he's all about. And so, yes, I wholeheartedly believe that they should continue fighting for that playoff spot. That's the only thing they can do.
Yeah, I'm with you guys. Definitely, I think the last time they went back-to-back playoffs, I want to say was the year after they won the Super Bowl, and then the year after that. So it would be like
92, 93.
91, 92, 92, 93, something like that. So definitely, I don't even remember football because I was so young back then.
Right.
So that would be definitely one reason why not to tank. A second reason would be just like a long-term view of things. Say they don't make the playoffs, that's most likely a second losing season in a row for Ron Rivera. go into his third year of a 5-year plan supposedly. And we all know the head owner, Mr. Snyder, doesn't really let guys linger along a long time just because of losing seasons, fan base is getting riled up, stuff like that. So I definitely think making the playoffs, finishing out strong, back-to-back playoff berths for the first time since the 90s would definitely go a long way for not only the front office people maintaining their jobs long term, for Dan Snyder to kind of back away from football things, not really kind of get meddled and involved back in things again, hopefully. And like you said, just for the morale of the team and for someone trying to change the culture of the locker room, if you got guys tanking, kind of just giving up, then what does that say about going into next year? What if you start off slow again next year? You're just going to throw in a towel again next year. And so it's just a whole like snowball effect, in my opinion.
Yeah, honestly, I do not care what Snyder thinks about Rivera and how long he wants him to. He needs to stay here as long as he needs.
Without a doubt, but
Snyder he can kick rocks, dude. Like, he's the last person that should have an opinion on the football team because this guy is moving mountains. Now, this isn't a question, but Todd, I wanted to get your opinion on this. In our Discord chat server, our guy Chris Comerton said, can you call out the majority of the fan base for going off on the team and calling for the coach's job for last night's loss when we had 13 on COVID reserve, 5 coaches missing, and 14 on IR?
Yeah, I mean, so that's ridiculous. Like, I'll be honest, I haven't seen any of that. So the fact that that's happening, I'm glad I haven't seen it because that's insane to me. Because it's not even like they got blown out. Like I'll be honest with you, I thought they would. Like, obviously, I didn't hope they would, but I expected it to be a much worse game. I don't want to like extend an unreasonable amount of credit in a 10-point loss, but at the same time, you're on your 4th string quarterback who wasn't even on the roster, and then you guys either not playing or you were missing your starting 3 cornerbacks at one point. You're missing, your starting safety is one of your best players on defense. You're still missing Chase Young. You're missing your best offensive player, and Brandon Sheriff's supposed to be. So like all of that, and then the Eagles coming off the rest, like. This was an acceptable loss, all things considered. You know what I mean? Like, as far as losses go, this is the most acceptable one they've had in a while. So that's ridiculous. Like the defense, I'm disappointed in the defense, but still, you were just putting an enormous amount of pressure on them. Yeah, that's crazy. That's crazy. I should have gone off more. So sorry, that's insane. That's ridiculous.
No, it's just a stupid knee-jerk reaction that people have because people are frustrated. They don't like losses, so they lash out. And it's just so crazy to me that they think that like Rivera or this coaching staff it needs to be gone, especially at this point. Because if you look back to that Mark Sanchez game when he did start for us, that is a guy who came off the street, and how did he do? Horrible. We didn't have a chance in that game. It was Josh Johnson who came in and actually gave us a chance, right? And looking at this team with how they played against the Cowboys in the second half and how they performed in this second half, because you could say an undermanned team would easily give up. But the fact that they still had a chance with 3 minutes in that game, that was gigantic to me to tell me that this is a different mindset. And I put this on Twitter earlier how like I feel like this team is so much better off now than they were 5 years ago because there's actual hope. Sustainable hope, not only as a football team, but as an organization, in my opinion. So, yes, it's absolutely ridiculous. We're better off than we have now more than ever. And what, do you want to have Dan Snyder be able to pick the next coach again?
Exactly.
We don't know if that guy's going to be good. Like,
exactly. And the thing is, like, with Rivera, too, is that he's not, like, it's not like there's someone above him. Like, if you replace Rivera, that's a complete domino effect on the entire football organization because he's in charge of the whole organization.
Right. Like
he's the GM essentially. Yeah, 4th string quarterbacks don't come in and win games for you. It just doesn't happen. I think people think it happens, but it doesn't. They may get close, but they don't come out and win games for you.
Right. And Hall, I want to go to you with this next question. This is from our guy Digital Guru. We want to know why hasn't Ron and Scott given more playing time to Jonathan Williams? He's been productive and seems to be a natural runner. Antonio Gibson seems to miss a lot of holes, and he's still learning to be a running back. So why isn't Jonathan Williams getting more snaps?
It's actually a good question. I don't know. It seems like whenever Jonathan Williams does enter the game, he's running hard. He's falling forward with his runs. Like you said, he's hitting the holes that are there. He's hitting the creases. My only explanation would be that they're trying to get as much reps for Antonio Gibson, as much game reps for Antonio Gibson, so that he does learn how to hit those holes. He does learn how to read his blocks a little bit better and gets like a lot more feel for the offensive line and the defense, how they're playing them, playing him. So, yeah, look, I like Jonathan Williams as far as like little spurts here and there, and definitely with McKissick being out, I don't know how well he catches the ball at the backfield. Obviously, he's not going to be as good as McKissick, but we can definitely use another guy in the passing game out the backfield. But like I said, my only thought could be that they want to give Antonio Gibson as much reps as possible so that he does develop into that guy that's a natural type runner.
Yeah, we have been finally blessed with the presence of old dad himself. How you doing, sir? Better late than never, right?
Yeah, no, I'm great. But I do expect a thank you card in the mail for being able to bless you with this. You're welcome, Michael.
Hey,
Now, I don't. My time is very valuable to me, and I have important things to do. So, I mean, let's get these questions going.
So, what do you think about Jonathan Williams? Why isn't he getting more snaps?
Because he doesn't want to. No, it's tough, but I think that Antonio Gibson's just still so raw, and there's still so much potential there, and he offers so many big plays, such big playability, and you can use him in so many different ways that you almost have to get him the reps to get him more experience. And the fumbling issues, I think, will eventually solve themselves out. But it's just something that's going to come with reps, so you got to get him reps. Jonathan Williams has done very well, but right now it's Antonio Gibson. You really want this guy to develop into what he could be. I mean, we've had Logan Paulson on before the season. Logan said that he has the potential down the road to be a top 3-4 NFL running back. So if he sees that, I would imagine the coaching staff can see that. So they want to get him reps, and the kinks will work themselves out. But yeah, I would love to see Jonathan Williams be able to get more carries.
Yeah, I put on before the game that I thought every running back on the team needed at least 5 carries in this football game. It is puzzling to me how everything was pushed towards AG, but I will say it probably comes down to trust. And obviously Jonathan Williams hasn't been here very long. It's up to Scott Turner and the formations that he calls and what's implemented and what sets he's in. So for me, it's trust. What do you think, Todd?
Yeah, I mean, because Williams wasn't even on the roster to start the season, right? He's your 4th-string running back. So as much as you have concerns with Gibson fumbling, there's a balance between not playing your starting running back because he's fumbling, but also giving him chances to stop fumbling. And then McKissick's hurt. Jarrett Patterson is a guy who you're most coveted undrafted free agent. You want to see what he has. You really just want to see what 3 guys have. Jonathan Williams is the lowest in the totem pole. So, you're not going to split it evenly because you think the talent gap is not even. So, I mean, he has shown some explosion, but it's different seeing a guy in a couple of snaps than seeing a guy in an extended period of time. So I don't really think we'll see that unless if Gibson gets hurt.
Yeah.
Right.
And now, keep this back with you, Todd. We have a question from our guy in the UK, Mr. Andy Burrows, the bridge himself.
Oi.
His question for you is, do we as fans expect too much too soon from draft picks? College to the NFL is a major leap.
That's a good question, man. So I'm going to go with yes. Part of it is because you see some of these rookies like Justin Jefferson, like Jamar Chase, like Micah Parsons, even like Chase Young last year, come out and just look like, 10-year vets or like better than 10-year vets, just like in their prime immediately. And that can happen. But think about how many players are drafted in the draft, nearly 300 players, and how many come out looking that good immediately. It's like 5. So like the idea with each pick should be the development over 3 years. Now, you would like to see more from your first-round pick than we've seen from Jamin Davis, but fans definitely do. Just a few games, we haven't seen anything, and it's like, oh, he's trash. Well, people develop at different rates. The one position where I really need to see something early is quarterback. But other than that, there's something like linebackers can be a slower developing position. Tight end can be slower. So, yeah, fans can be impatient. And it's kind of for me about like, why do they seem like they're struggling? And what are they struggling with? So I do think so. And that's a good question.
Yeah, I do think it's a really good question because I talked about today with Jamin Davis that, I consider him like a puppy playing a big dog's game. And obviously,
that's what I love it.
Yeah, and it's not fair to kind of equate him to Micah because Micah obviously is a big dog himself playing the game because obviously that's what he was doing in the locker room with his teammates. But to be perfectly honest, it's as fans we do need to kind of chill out with that, but it could be worse. Like you said, Todd, with the quarterbacks, we could be the Jets. 2nd overall, take Zach Wilson, and the best looking quarterback they've had under center was Mike White. So it could be much worse.
Right.
And look, you have to trust him. And they see something in Jamin. I feel like it's all mental for Jamin. It's not physical. It's like he's kind of
Yeah, I
psyching
agree.
himself out. He's not confident in what he's seeing. It's almost like deer in headlights every time the play's coming at him. He's not anticipating. He doesn't have the instincts right away, and that's indicative of him only having 1 year of college starting, where Micah had 3. So I hate equating them because their situations are completely different. And obviously, I think that a scouting staff should probably get a lot of crap if they drafted a guy to be a linebacker and he's better fit for a D end. Why aren't you seeing that on film? That should be something, but nobody likes to talk about that.
Right. And I was going to bring up the experience thing too, but also, I mean, middle linebacker and defensive end / outside backer to whatever Micah Parsons is playing, those are two completely different things. I mean, inside linebacker, that's such a mental aspect of the game, and you really got to play chess. And so eventually that'll come. His mind will catch up with him. But it's an instant gratification thing, man. And we used to see that with quarterbacks. Remember, it used to be like, until Joe Flacco and Matt Ryan's year, it used to be your quarterback, if he was a rookie, it was very rare he sat on the bench and he learned. He wasn't expected to do anything. And you're right. If you don't see a flash from a quarterback, then the rookie year, then it's kind of just like, But at linebacker, Jamin Davis will get it. He'll get it down. It'll be all right. The dude's, like you said, Kyle, only started, 11 games last year. That was his only time starting, so he just needs experience, kind of like Gibson, and it will come. Ron Rivera and Jack Del Rio know linebackers, and I really think that he will get through this and be all right.
Now, our next question is from our guy, Tony Franchise, who always has great ones. And this one I'm going to go to you, Hall. His question is, my impression is that Terry McLaurin deserves better, and we must get a quarterback in here this offseason that can get him the ball. If not, I fear he will want out of D.C. What do you think?
I mean, 8 different QBs and possibly 9 next year will definitely get you thinking like that. But I actually posted like a quote tweet from Pete Haley, and it was like a picture of Terry McLaurin, and he was kind of looking down like he was going to answer a question, about to answer a question. And I was just like, man, that's like the face of someone contemplating if he wants to catch a pass from his 9th quarterback in Washington next year. And look, as a fan, like a super fan of Terry McLaurin, I just hope and pray that we can bring in a guy that's actually like at least like tier 2 type quarterback next year, because this dude's been playing with pretty much like tier 3.5 to 4 quarterbacks like his whole career pretty much up to now. So, and we haven't had a legit like outside receiver, legit playmaker on the outside like that. Probably since Pierre Garçon and Deshaun Jackson in like 2015 or whatever the year was. Yeah. So I definitely think that we need to do whatever it takes to get a legit dude in here, and we need to do whatever it takes to pay him whatever it takes to stay here.
Honestly, Tony, I don't fear that with Terry, because if Terry was that kind of person to think that would impact his decision whatsoever, he wouldn't be going for these jump balls after getting concussed last week. This is just a straight-up gamer. I think he loves it here. He's my dude, and obviously if he wants to go play somewhere else, more power to him. But I feel like in my heart that Terry wants to stay here. He wants to get a quarterback in here, and he doesn't care who's throwing him the football at this point. Somebody just needs to. And can we please acknowledge the fact that this guy is an elite wide receiver in this football league? I mean, my goodness, for 3 straight years, he's been playing with guys that shouldn't be here, essentially, and he keeps putting up numbers. Nobody else is really doing that except for DeAndre Hopkins back at Houston. What do you think, Todd?
Yeah, I was gonna agree with you, Kyle, where, not knowing him personally, but he really seems to just be the person that he is. Seems like the type of guy who would stay loyal to a franchise, like he would just trust the coaches to, like, I'm here to do whatever it takes to win. He seems like the type of guy who would say if he catches 0 passes, but they win the Super Bowl, he'll be happy. And I don't know if he'd really be happy, but I think that really is his mentality. So if you do right by him in the contract and all that, like, I think I don't worry about him leaving because of the quarterback situation, which is why it's all the more important that you get him a quarterback. I just have, every now and then, I just imagine if you had been successful trading for Matthew Stafford, and would that have been Terry McLaurin having the Cooper Kupp year right now?
Right.
So, yeah, but I'm not super worried about him leaving, but I just would love to see him with a quarterback who will throw him, because he's open like so much. Just throw it to him so much in so many situations he's not getting it now.
What do you think, Reed?
Yeah, I mean, I agree with all of you guys. It's got to be frustrating for Terry. I mean, I couldn't imagine it, but at the same time, like you guys have said, Terry doesn't really strike me as one of those diva wide receivers, one of those guys who needs the ball. I mean, he kind of seems like a old school throwback Isaac Bruce, Marvin Harrison type, where he wants to be at one place. He wants to do that. So I'm not too worried about it, but I mean, you never know. Anything could happen. If my stepdad taught me one thing, it's never trust a man named Terry. So I completely understand why I would be nervous, but I'm not too nervous. I think you'll be all right.
Yeah, I agree with you there. Now, I'm going to go to this with you. This is from Scott Hartley in the UK, as always. Oi!
Oi.
Thank you, Scott. Todd, I want to ask you, because this is right up your alley, my brother. Is this finally going to be the year that we draft a franchise quarterback, or do you see a veteran coming in?
I think that they are going to draft somebody because, unfortunately, I think that they will not make the playoffs. Not what I want, but what I think, that they will miss the playoffs and be picking in the 10 to 13 range, where if this year you could probably stay put or move up a little bit and get somebody. And they talk a lot about how they don't want to give away assets. Look at guys who'll be available this year. Russell Wilson, Rodgers seem like they're going to have a very short list. Maybe Garoppolo, maybe Derek Carr. But what will their prices be? They might be kind of inflated. Matthew Stafford went for 2 1s. I think that because of where they'll end up with their draft position and the price that it will take, that they will end up drafting somebody this year. Yeah, and either staying put or giving up something very minimal to move up a little bit, as opposed to giving up ones or multiple ones for a veteran. Yeah, that's what I think.
I think Scott, I think it's going to be by a veteran. Obviously, Deshaun Watson is out there. We heard Michael Phillips obviously earlier talk about that. But me, dude, it's Aaron Rodgers. Where did he go to college? He went to Cal. And where did Ron Rivera go to college? He went to Cal. I feel like there is some sort of relationship there. And Washington has plenty of money going into next season. And if you tell Terry McLaurin, hey, dude, we could get Aaron here, will you sign this contract? He'll say, what? Where do I sign? Where does that go?
Right.
And that's all about me with like the whole Matt Stafford thing. It's go big or go home, and that's kind of the mindset that they had. Where when they lost out on Matt Stafford, they kind of were out of the QB filings, and that's how I feel about it. Go big or go home. Aaron is the number one go to get him in the building, is my opinion. What about you?
I agree.
So I'm just gonna go, because it's the mic show.
The dominant mic. It's okay.
Yeah, there you go. So I don't know. I feel like if you're going to go big, like eventually you might have to spend a good amount to get a quarterback. So I think if you do, it kind of has to be this year after you kind of seen what this team has done without a quarterback the last 2 years. So I could see them getting a veteran. I mean, there's a chance Derek Carr we might not even have to trade for him. He may end up being a free agent, especially depending on how snaps they get Marcus Mariota. So somebody like that, I think, would take our offense to the next level. But I really think that they would possibly like somebody like a Matt Corral, depending on where they're drafting. Somebody who's very similar to Taylor Heineke. You know that they love the way Taylor Heineke plays. It's just he kind of has a noodle arm. Matt Corral plays like Taylor Heineke. He has a way stronger arm that really could have helped out in a few situations this game or this season. Like not getting Terry concussed and knocked out on the ground. That ball was just out a little bit further, maybe that wouldn't happen. And I'm not saying that Crowd's the answer or anything, but he was just the first person that came to mind. But yeah, they have to get a quarterback. They know that now. So I think it'll happen.
Yeah, I agree with you. Now, our next question is from Orange Crush 92.
Hey, you didn't let me go?
All right, sorry.
Yeah, no, Hall, you're good.
Yeah, no, so I don't want to go. No, but all I was going to say is Ron Rivera knows. He's already said that the number one task this offseason is identifying that franchise quarterback. Yeah. And I know everyone's like, we need to draft a franchise guy. We need to draft a franchise guy. Well, just because you draft a guy in whatever round doesn't mean he's going to be the franchise guy. So with that being said, everyone knows, even going before we signed Fitz, I've been like trying to get Kyle's boy. I've been on the DC to DC train since since we signed Fitz last year, or this offseason, I mean. So, yeah, that's where I stand with it. I think that everyone keeps talking about it's going to take 2 1s to get Derek Carr. I don't think that Derek Carr is looked at Matt Stafford's type of level. So I don't think it would take 2 1s to get Derek Carr. Would it take a first-round pick? Yes, but I think it would take a 1 and like maybe a 3, 1 and a 5, something like that. So I definitely think that DC to DC, 2022.
Dude, I truly believe in like speaking something into existence, and so
me too.
For
that's
that reason, that's why I would wish you stop freaking saying that and just talk about Aaron Rodgers for Christ's sake. But no, our next question from Orange Crush 92. Obviously, love interacting with OC. His question is: Jalen Hurts isn't typically the best passer, and last night he was on fire. How does last night's game make the secondary look, and what are some changes that you'd like to make by next season, Todd?
Yeah. So I have to chalk some of that up to you didn't have Kendall Fuller. William Jackson got hurt. The linebackers are always an issue in coverage. But then the D line was like, aside from having their injuries, like they were very focused on contain.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes that limited their actual rush and pressure. And then that forced the secondary to cover for longer than any secondary should have to. I'll be honest with you. I mean, for me, the only thing I can think of is really just starting on the front end of the pressure and either bringing more pressure or just managing like selling out for pressure and worrying less about contain, so that you're not leaving the secondary out to dry, because you have to respect their run game. They ran for over 20 yards, so they go play action. You have to step up. Guys are going to be open, and then it just comes down to getting the quarterback before he can throw it, which wasn't happening. So adjustments, it's tough, but I would say either just focus more on pressure and risk losing contain, or bring pressure in the form of blitzes where you're hoping that you can get to Jalen Hurts before, force him to process really fast, which may not be his best thing. Bring him down before he can process or before guys can get up. That's probably like who was it? The Viking who ran the same blitz. The Dolphins blitzed Lamar like 35 times.
Yeah.
That's what I would, that's the only like significant adjustment I would make. That's an all or nothing type of thing, but yeah.
Yeah, I totally agree with you there, because that's what I was going to bring up is their ability to run the football last night made everything a lot easier for Jalen Hurts. Obviously, getting play action. I've said this about Taylor. He's at his best when he has the ability of play action, because it gives him just that much more space. And when you're running the ball for 5.8 yards per carry on average, and you're rushing 238 yards in the entire game, throwing the ball is going to be easy because the defense is going to be worried crapless about stopping the run. And so it makes it a lot easier for you. But give credit to Jalen Hurts. He's a more athletic Taylor Heineke. And this is a guy that I was very impressed with at Oklahoma in that pass-happy offense. He was able to do work there. I thought he was a capable quarterback. And when you give him that running the football ability, he's throwing the ball is very, very effective. When we watched that happen last night. What do you think, Reed?
Yeah, I mean, like you guys said, there's really only so much you can do this season. I mean, in the offseason, of course, you can bring in some guys, you can draft some guys. Getting Benjamin St. Juste back next year, I think will help. And I don't mean to just look ahead to next year, but like there's some holes in the secondary. Yes, we have a lot of depth, and yes, we have some good guys that are very versatile. But there are some things that you can do. Obviously, I think safety and corner will end up being a need that's fairly high on their priority list. So it's going to be interesting to see. But yeah, I'm excited to see what Jack Del Rio does. Hopefully, once we get a little bit more healthy, I mean, we can really utilize some of these veterans that are just very good in multiple positions. I mean, you're looking at like Kendall Fuller and what's his face? I can't even think of his name right now because I'm getting summoned into work. But our free safety, Bobby McCain is another very good versatile guy. And then of course you look at what Landon Collins and Cam Kroll can do, and I mean it's just incredible. But yeah, there needs to do something. I think you're right. Bringing pressure in is really going to be the only thing that can kind of save the secondary this season. So
yeah, and it's not their fault. With everything that went around, you could play with what you got. And obviously the D-line wasn't doing enough to be able to make their jobs easier in the back end. It's a snowball effect. That's why you have to establish yourself and dominance in the trenches, because it makes everything easier for a football team. Now, the next question, I'm going to go to you with this one, Reed, again. Who impressed you the most last night, and what was your highlight play? We already gave our game beers, but I will have a different one than my game beer for who impressed me the most. So who's yours?
I mean, it's got to be the guy that's just continued to impress me for the last few weeks, Landon Collins. Just in my opinion, always around the ball. I understand that the defense really struggled, but early on in that game, Landon Collins, I mean, with the fumble recovery, the unreal interception that he knew was a pick immediately that I didn't think anything of. I mean, he just continues to impress me in this role. And just whatever you do, don't call him a linebacker. Just tell him he's a safety. I don't care. Just keep him in this position, and so we can keep him at this point, because what he's doing is really, it's been unreal. And I've been very happy for him. He's somebody who I thought would destroy this summer, or during camp this summer, and he really started slow. But it's nice to see him finally get his legs back under him and play to the ability that he has. So I'm going to go with Landon Collins.
For me, it's going to be Keith Ishmael. Obviously, he being the fourth center on the depth chart going up against Fletcher Cox, and obviously Fletcher moved over a lot. He moved all over the line. He lined up on Sadiq Charles at right guard. He lined up on Cosme a couple times. He was creating a lot of pressure. but Keith was able to step in because one thing that we talked about in the last week was that John Toth was possibly starting. And everyone was like, oh, my goodness. So when we got Keith Ishmael back, I'm happy about that because it bringing some sort of relativity to it back to the team. And so I was impressed with Keith Ishmael's play last night. He was one of the higher guys rated by Pro Football Focus. I think he was in the 70s, if I'm not mistaken. So he was effective. For me, I was very, very impressed by Keith Ishmael. He continues to do so. What about you, Todd?
Yeah, I'm gonna go with another fourth stringer and Garrett Gilbert. Like you can't look
Yep.
at this game and say that he's the reason that they lost. The only area where you could really say that is, they obviously their their passing playbook was limited because they didn't want to throw too much at him. But like he really didn't make a number of mistakes. He had a good throw that Humphrey should have caught. He had a
Yep.
good throw to Ricky Seals-Jones outside. He made that throw to John Bates. The only near interception was on that screen, which they haven't been able to run screens for 2 years now. So that's not even on Gilbert.
Yeah.
So like for him to come in there and execute and really give this team a chance, he impressed me. I don't want to see him play again, but he impressed me because if you got, if you got a stronger performance from the defense, then you could have had a chance at the end of this game to really, win.
Yeah, and for I just want to piggyback off of that. I thought that number 4 not being there last night was evident, and you could see the difference there because there were times where Garrett Gilbert got a lot of pressure in his face, and it was almost like a deer in headlights. He got the ball out of his
he
hands.
just stayed there.
Yeah, and just like threw the ball on the ground, almost was
Right.
intentional grounding a couple times. Where Taylor, would improvise in that situation. He'd escape the
Right.
pocket, and there was one situation where he like came out to the right side and it actually got a sack on Cosme was blocking Cox, and Cox ran right into him. So I
Right.
thought that number 4 was sorely missed last night. I think he gets too much flack. He's a hard worker. He's a good kid. And I have a lot of respect for Garrett Gilbert for stepping in at that time, being able to go in there and not be scared at all and throw that dime to Terry McLaurin. A lot of credit to that kid, man. He stepped in and his balls were on display. What about you, Hall?
Yeah, I mean, to your point, like I said earlier, that dime that he threw to Adam Humphries in the back of the end zone in the corner.
Right.
I mean, we get that. That's 14-0. We're up 14-0, and we got a lot of momentum going our way.
It forces
And
Philly
who
to be
knows how
pass happy, you know. What I'm saying?
Exactly. Pin our ears back,
Yep.
and who knows how the game would have turned out going forward. But speaking of, I guess, the defense and pinning their ears back, I was semi impressed with Montez Sweat, just for the simple fact of
Let's go.
he missed 4 games with.
Fractured jaw. Your mic went out, Hall. Your mic went out. Check your mic again. But so you're fine. All right, guys. Now to wrap this up, last thing I wanted to talk about: this Nick Sirianni testing positive for COVID. Obviously, everyone's flying off the handles with this, like, oh, Ron Rivera. I get it, but we have to imagine, like, it's probably most likely in the building, right, in Ashburn. So it's not like Nick Sirianni shaking his hand or anything is going to be a real detriment, in my opinion. What did you think about that, Todd?
Yeah, if Ron Rivera was going to get it, he would have got it. Or if he's going to get it, it's going to be from the 25 or 30 people in the building that already have gotten it. And the fact that he hasn't is like very grateful for that. So maybe he won't. But
not only given the fact that how many assistant coaches were out last night as well with COVID.
Like
so
7.
You have to imagine
Exactly.
he's meeting with the assistant coaches.
Exactly. He's probably closer to the assistant coaches than the players. And so, I'm sure they've been virtual and stuff. Sirianni, if they even exchanged anything physically because of all the stuff going on with COVID, I think it's a non-issue, but it is kind of funny. And the Eagles didn't have an outbreak because they were on their bye week. They're back from their bye week, and it's starting to get everybody. So, yeah, they might be next up.
One thing that was sketchy, Sirianni said, they asked him why he wore his mask going to talk to Ron Rivera. And he talked about how he wanted to cover it because they had done that for all of their meetings and everything. If Sirianni knew he had COVID, that is an issue.
Oh, that's huge. That's massive.
Yeah, that is a big issue,
horrible.
and that should be looked into just a little bit because that was sketchy for me. Why are you putting your mask on outside? You haven't been wearing it the whole time. That's sketchy. What about you, Hall?
Right.
Yeah, I mean, I'm with you guys. I feel like hopefully coach is okay and nothing comes of the after-game handshake and hug that he had with Sirianni. But like you guys said, I mean, the whole week leading up with all the people just popping up, coaches and players popping up positive. Obviously, it's in the building somewhere around the building. So I feel like if there was a chance for him, it was a higher chance of him getting it during the week while he's around the facilities and stuff like that than a little 2.5 second shake and a hug at the end of a game. So, but again, hopefully coach is straight and nothing comes of this, and he's here for the long haul.
Yeah, and to all the Eagles fans that were commenting on the news saying that they're blaming Washington, they're blaming Ron Rivera, I mean this with no respect whatsoever. You're stupid. You're stupid. Please stop talking. That was yesterday, dude. Like, you think that he just contracted COVID? He's probably had COVID.
Yeah, exactly. It doesn't that fast.
Right.
Well, also, if Ron Rivera had COVID, and he's had cancer before, so if he had COVID, he wouldn't even be at the game. He'd be in the hospital somewhere getting treatments. So, like,
and like 10% of the NFL has gotten it. So.
Right. It doesn't make any sense at all. And then the
Typical
Eagles fans before the game waving face masks at the Washington players as they come into the field while they don't wear face masks. I mean, if you don't see the irony in that, I mean, come on, man.
Yeah, right.
They need to be waving them at their players now because it's about to be a super outbreak.
Yeah, that's why you don't talk.
Real.
That's why you don't
exactly. talk. Exactly. It's not like it just happened to Washington. It's happening in every sport everywhere.
Right.
Whatever.
I know. This is not a time for COVID talk, Todd, right? Thank you, everyone, for tuning in for this episode. I know it's a miserable Wednesday. It's kind of weird, and we pushed this episode back to Wednesday because, obviously, COVID pushed the game to Tuesday night. They lost 27-17. They're sitting at 6-8, and like Todd said, they're 10th seed right now for the playoffs. They need to leapfrog some guys. Big game this weekend in Dallas, and they generally do play well. Hopefully number 4 or number 8 are ready to suit up. Todd, I can't thank you enough for joining us, brother. You do such a great job, not only on social media, but as a podcaster and just as a person. I really do appreciate you and what you do. I hope you have a great holiday, sir, and we'll see you guys back on Friday. Thank you, Todd.
Thanks, guys. Thanks.
All right, everybody. I'm Kyle.
Paul.
And we will see you guys on Friday. Washington football. Woo! Hey, what's up, everybody? It's Kyle. I just wanted to say thank you so much for watching. And if you liked what you saw, make sure you hit the subscribe button and the notification bell. That way you get notified when anything new is uploaded to the channel. Also, we just launched theburgundyzone.com. You can go there and find all of our latest news, articles, and the latest episodes that are uploaded. Again, we also have the Discord chat server, where all of our VIP folks are in, like Andy Burrows, Scott Hartley, Sergio Martin is in there as well. Don't miss out on the Discord chat server. Go and check that out. Until next time, everybody, Washington football. Woo!